Welcome to Women in Power Active, an initiative started by UR Sportswear to empower women to find their own active adventure. I'm your host, Jacalyn Gross. Today's guest is an adventurer who discovered climbing at 32 with no athletic background and went all in, driven by the fear of running out of time. After 7 years of van lifing and traveling frugally to pursue climbing, they tackled alpine first ascents in Asia and Patagonia, big walls, desert towers, and even a 20-day winds traverse bagging 33 peaks along the Continental Divide. Now at age 49, they may be stepping back from expeditions, but performing climbing goals are still alive, driven by the belief that their best day is yet to come. Join us as we explore the mindset of someone who's redefined what's possible and continues to push their limits. Thank you, Ting Ting. I really appreciate you for being here. Um, this has been such a cool thing to explore your background, and I can't wait to hear more. I gave a little bit away in the opening, so you absolutely didn't have like any athletic background before you started, or how did you get into this into climbing?
I grew up in Taiwan,
Hmm.
and some stereotypes about traditional Asian families true. At least for my family, my mom wanted me to be a medical doctor since I was a kid. I was book smart, but I remember when I was at elementary school, the PE classes, I was always get laughed at because I couldn't jump, I couldn't run, I was awkward, I was not coordinated. And then luckily in my culture that if you were book smart, you will actually be fine. Yeah. So even though I do remember those memory vividly, so I never thought that I would come this far. And I think it's still possible for me to go even farther on my athletic pursuit.
Yeah, definitely. That's really inspiring. I want to hear like kind of like where like how did you stumble upon climbing?
Yeah, so I remember in college, my older brother was in Alpine Club. And he didn't really do anything too technical. Was in Taiwan, we have a lot of mountains over 10,000 feet. So he was just backpacking, peak bagging, backpacking for many overnight trip. And he
Mhm.
always told me about the stories of how beautiful those mountains were. And I wanted to do those things too. But my mom didn't want me to because, girls should be like a girl. But I after college, I the reason I came to United States was actually running away from mom. And once I got to United States, I even applied school in East Coast. I didn't apply for school in West Coast because it's too close to Taiwan. And I was like, wow, mom is far away. Maybe it's time for me to explore outdoor. So that was how it all started. And I remember I I was not very good, so I had to start from ground zero. I start running, get my endurance up, and I participate in this local. I found this flyer or whatever magazine, I don't know where, that joined the Avalanche Mountain Club. So I started hiking, backpacking, gradually learn stuff, and even volunteer to be backpacking leader for the club. And also did some well small section high they call it in Avalanche Mountain Trail. And eventually I also because one thing leads to another, I found this catalog or some advertisement about this thing called National Outdoor Leadership School. So I took a mountaineering course in Alaska.
Wow.
And then 1 year after that, I did a Denali mountaineering course. So I was doing peak ascents. But at some point, I was like, wait, people say climbing mountains, but I was always walking. I was not climbing because, I carry heavy packs and
Mhm.
at work, I never really use my arms or something. So I was determined to find out what climbing was. So first thing first, I found a climbing gym. I went there. I sucked. I was tired after like one or two laps on this
Hmm.
5-7, which is supposed to be very easy routes.
Hmm.
And the indoor atmosphere didn't attract me, but somehow I found some friends in the gym, and eventually those friends took me to Shawagams because at that time I was studying in Philadelphia. So Shawagams was this very famous track climbing place, and so I followed this three-pitch route, maybe only 100 feet long, but you break it into three sections. And I remember it was beautiful for sure, but what I remember was the gear they use. So they
Hmm.
use this thing called track climbing gear that you can plug in into the cracks or weakness in the rock, and then later the second person climb out will recycle those gear and give it back to leader, and then leader can use the same set of gear to climb the next session of the climb. And I was quite inspired by the idea. I was like, whoa, you only have need a small set of climbing gear, then you can keep going up. So I was immediately hooked by this idea. It's like, wow. Then I open up a lot of possibilities for adventures. So I immediately registered for a course to learn how to do this properly.
Wow. That did you like when you first started out, did you have any like fear at all?
Oh, I had a lot of fear. Even
Okay.
right now, I have a lot of fear, different kind of fear. Uh, and definitely did a lot of stupid thing because it's kind of interesting
Mhm.
that everybody is afraid of height. If somebody's not afraid of height, I mean, right now I'm as a guy, if somebody told me that I'm not afraid of height, then I'm afraid.
Mhm.
Because the innate sense of fear is how signal your brain to reevaluate the situation, so keep you safe.
Yep.
But there's definitely a lot of irrational fear, fear of high, fear of exposure, fear of like what's gonna happen if I make a wrong choice or wrong decision.
Hmm.
And then also fear of like performance. For example, like you hang out with a friend and how come your friend can do it and then you couldn't do it.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of anxiety and fear and those things, and I experience all those things. And I also still experience now, but right now I'm just getting better at dealing with that.
Yeah, like the mental game of it, you feel more
Yes.
experience with. Um, did you, even though you weren't very good when you first started, like what kept you going past the initial like bumps?
Yeah, that's a good question. I I think looking back, I think I had a drive
Hmm.
to to explore because when I just start climbing, my goal was to go to remote regions to climb some line that nobody else has climbed
Hmm.
before. And which in climbing jargon, they call it first ascent. You are the first one doing that line. And so you don't have a previous information. I thought at that time, I thought that was just the coolest thing. And then at some point, I met my current husband, and back then he was a big mentor of me. We met because of climbing. And if you ask him, he would say that he would never thought because he was like, wow, this girl, she was not very coordinated, but somehow she just wanted to go up.
Hmm.
And I cried, I got frustrating, and I yelled and all those things. But then he was amazed that after I fell and then I had to return to the ground or return back to the original spot. He thought that that was the end of the day, but then I would rest a little bit. I say, I'm gonna try again. Yeah. So even though it was hard, it was awkward, and it was even laughable how I climbed because I look at past, I just said, wow, I'm definitely climbing a lot better than I
Yeah.
used to. Uh, but then I just that sense of adventure, I couldn't give up that. And then but I did have something that's I thought I was good at climbing, which is the decision making, like analyze the situation, like evaluate the conditions and evaluate the environment around me, and also climbing, you have to learn a lot of technical system.
Hmm.
And since I have a engineering background, so I major in computer science. So those actually came quite easy for me. So somehow, even though I was climbing easier grade, in terms of climbing performance, just like pure athletic performance, it
Hmm.
wasn't that good. But mountain climbing or is not only that one single aspect.
Yeah. Um, and then you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but like your relationship with your mom, did you ever resolve that
Yeah.
after you ran
Yeah,
away?
that a lot of people ask me because I in 2000, let's see, 2012, I published a few books in my home country, Taiwan. So
Hmm.
my very first books is actually a memoir,
Hmm.
and I talk about how I transitioned from a computer scientist into a dirtbag climber,
Hmm.
rock climber in United States, and then eventually at that time, I even haven't successfully done one single first ascent, but I had a dream to do first ascent. So I wrote that book, but about this pursuit, but I actually put um, narratives about the relationship between me and my mom.
Hmm.
And for whatever reason, that book sold like really well in Taiwan. I guess a lot of kids in Taiwan also could relate to my
Yeah.
story. And then a lot of people ask me, "Yeah, how about your relationship with your mom?"
Hmm.
I would say that right now I still don't know whether my mom had read that book. Uh, and no, nobody knew. And then for 2 years, my mom didn't even talk to me. She disowned me for 2 years. She refused to talk with me. But then gradually, now that, well, I have grown up, my mom's being older, so I bet she has been a lot mellower. And I think the biggest worry that she had was financial security, I
Hmm.
think. And now, but I never asked single penny from her. And so I proved that I could take care of myself. And then she finally think that I'm happy. So gradually, with the help of my other family members, and then I think the most important thing is once I found that this is what I really love to do, and also have more energy to deal with this relationship because back then it's like, oh, I was struggling about what I wanted to do, and then on top of it I have to deal the relationship between my mom and I, so I couldn't really deal both things very well. But once I focus on one thing and manage well, and I have extra energy, so I have more patience with my mom too. So our relationship over the year has slowly improved. And now I can call my mom, have a very good conversation with her, even though she still want me to find a real job.
Well, I'm glad to hear the relationship is better, but yeah, that's very funny because you're like, nope, I'm happy. This is where I want to be.
Yes.
You've done like so much in your career. What has been like one of like the more like favorite like maybe expeditions that you've went on?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that maybe the most memorable might be the first successful one
Hmm.
because that made me realize how unprepared I was. So it
Hmm.
was quite epic. But my favorite one might be the later one because it was just pure joy because I was like, wow, I'm quite independent and I just merely have fun in the mountains. Yeah, so now I look back, think, a lot of expeditions I had quite a lot of hardship.
Hmm.
I carry heavy load, way in a little tiny tent for the inclement weather to clear. So I might not even want to do those expeditions again, but the wind traverse though,
Hmm.
I would say that I would not mind doing that again because our original goal was to back the 43 named peaks along the Continental Divide, but an early storm came in, so we didn't get to do the last 10. And but it was such a happy journey. So I just like, oh, I would not mind to go back and then try to see whether I can successfully finish my original goal.
Has that been done before?
No, so it was it was not, yeah. And actually later I forgot which year, but
Mhm.
some climber emailed us. So I did that expedition with my husband. So two climbers email us and asking for beta, which is information about the client, and they want to attempt that too.
Mhm.
But they also didn't successfully finish the artificial goal that we set up. So right now still unclaimed.
Nice. Yeah. So I guess like speaking of that, like what goals do you have for yourself right
Right
now?
now, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So now I'm actually more, I still have my performance climbing goal.
Mhm.
So for a very long time, I I wrote off that goal of like, I could be a very strong climber. And then, but somehow a very tiny part of me thought that maybe I could climb hard.
Mhm.
Uh, and And then maybe a few years ago, I started to think maybe I should start training for it. So I dabble in training, so not really serious. But over the years, I still see steady, even slow, but steady improvement.
Mhm.
And not until recently, I was like, whoa, maybe it's possible. So,
Yeah.
so I just like, oh, okay. So I have this plan of, I was talking about I was 49 and I'm
Mhm.
going to be 50 pretty soon. I just like maybe that would be a biggest birthday gift for me is I'm gonna take a year off or maybe just do very little work but focus on training to see how far I can get.
Mhm.
So I still have some performance goal. I haven't climbed 513. And I also have some harder, long multi-pitch climbs that I wanted to do.
Was that 513 like trad or top rope?
So 513, it's so I want to lead for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I definitely think you can get there. And sometimes it's like training is just like unlocking the little pieces that like work for you, and it's so like hard to fit those pieces together sometimes because
Yeah.
yeah.
And and I think training is I don't know because I never trained at my younger age and people always say that oh, if you train when you were young, you progress very rapidly. So I can't really compare. It's like okay, now I'm older age, but I certainly think that you need to have some patience. It's like as long as you are not you as long as you don't start, you're not plateau, you just like, well, then you definitely the potential is still there, pretty deep that you should discover your own potential.
Yes, definitely. Um I've been trying to work back from an injury that I had this last summer. And it's definitely still taking me quite a while to get where I want to be. And there is some frustration and like you said, like you have to be patient with the incremental improvements because it's going to take a while. Um,
It is, yes.
so do you have any like specific so 513 and then what were the alpine routes that you were thinking about doing?
Uh, Not quite alpine route, but this is multi-pitch climb in Zion that I've been wanting to do. I actually climbed on it a little bit, but it was too hard for me
Okay.
back then. Yeah, so this route called the Moonlight Buttress in Zion. I definitely want to climb that. Yeah.
What types of things are you doing for your workouts right now?
Oh, right now, for my workout, let me see. So I do some weight training. So the barbell weight training. So that's why you can see the background. I have this
Yeah.
power rack. Yeah. And I started training I think back in 2020 COVID. I guess, during COVID, you don't really have much to do.
Right.
So so I did kettlebell workout
Mhm.
during the years, and then now I climb the gym. I do some fingerboard workout for my fingers, and then I switch from kettlebell to barbell lifting. And yeah, that's the training I do
Yeah.
because I'm also guiding, so it's not like I can do a whole lot of training right now. So that's why I was just trying. I mentioned that I wanted to work a little bit less and then focus more on my training. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about a little bit about your guiding. I know you have a podcast.
Hmm.
Um, do you want to talk a little bit about the podcast and then go into your guiding company?
Oh, I don't have a guiding company.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm a rock climbing guide.
Yeah.
And so I moved to Las Vegas. So right now I'm based in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is home to this awesome international climbing destination, Red Rock Canyon.
Hmm.
And the weather in Las Vegas and Red Rock Canyon is usually really good. So we have very long climbing season from pretty much from maybe after Labor Day to maybe Memorial Day. Summer will be too hot for
Yeah.
us. So, um, f- so since I moved to Vegas like 6 years ago, I
Hmm.
basically full-time guiding here, but summer I do travel to other places to guide. So I've been rock climbing for a very long time, guiding rock climbing for a very long time too. And right now I also train newer guides and then newer guys, a lot newer guys, especially female newer aspirant guys will ask me about the industry because guiding industry is notoriously white male dominated
Hmm.
workspace. So it's exciting for female aspirant guy to see another female guys.
Hmm.
And then some of them seek mentorship. And I was just like, wait, I definitely am willing to help. I can share my own stories, but then wouldn't it be nice that we have more stories from other female guides? So that's when I had the idea of starting my podcast. So my podcast is called Female Guides Requested. And I got this name because sometimes um, I will work some days and I see the note right next to my pro from the day. It's just like, oh, female guy requested.
Hmm.
Because since there are not that many female guys, when they request, usually it's me at that time. And now we have more. But so that was the inspiration uh, that I got from. So I named my podcast "Female Guys Requested."
Hmm.
And so I started roughly 2 years ago, the International Women's Day,
Hmm.
and and still going. So
Yeah.
it's nice.
Yeah. There's a lot of great guests that you've had on, so definitely go check that out. Um, it's so inspiring. And if anybody's in Red Rock, uh, they can hire you for a guide.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So Rera is an awesome place. And I have return guys. I have new. No, I have return clients, and then a lot of return clients would like recommend
Mhm.
their friend if they somehow come to Vegas and want to try rock climbing too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I had a friend who did that exact thing, and I'm like, I wonder if she hired you. Um, So yeah, no, that's very, very cool. I'm very excited for that. And then so going back to your story, how do you how do you feel about where you are climbing right now? Like you want to be stronger. Um, what else are you kind of thinking about, climbing as you age? Because like I've kind of gone through this similar thing where I've been running for a really long time, and so I also climb too, but I didn't do that when I was younger. been running since I was 12. And as I like go through this process, I'm like have to remind myself that like maybe I might not uh bounce back from this injury as quickly as I would if I was, 20 years younger than I am now. So like how are you thinking about your efforts and like in climbing? Like what's your like philosophy when it comes to climbing?
Yeah, I'll share my experience a little bit is I found that the especially if something is new to you, i- at the very beginning you have to be really patient to really get your foundation really solid.
Hmm.
And and you have to believe that if you have a very solid foundation, you might not see the improvement at that rapidly at the very beginning, but it's going to be like avalanche because at the very beginning you don't see the sign, and then but something is slowly working underneath the without being detected. But boom, at one point you say, "Whoa, I'm good." Uh, and and I know it's hard, so it's nice that you have somebody who encourage you. And then you have to show up. So just like you have this plan, uh, you have to show up. It's like, okay, I have this plan. And human body is not like, oh, you would change overnight. So at least you have to wait for a few weeks to see something has changed.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I'm not a particularly patient person, so it took me a long time to realize that, wait, I think something is happening. Something is like moving. And it's also nice that because um, I will have friend climb with me, and but not they are not like every day climb with me. It will be friend travel and come climbing with me. And then they will compare me, say from, oh, last time I saw you you were like this, but now 6 months later you're like this. Because I would say that for me to judge myself, I'm greedy, so I just like no, I feel like I regress. But it's kind of normal that because today your body might be tired, so you feel that today you're not perform as well as
Hmm.
yesterday. But as long as you're long term, you are like moving up,
Hmm.
then you're doing things right. And so sometimes you need to have like other people's perspective, just like, oh, 6 months ago and 6 months later, so they can give you a better evaluation. And and another thing I found right now, I really make sure that I have enough sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which is very important to me. I found that I can deal with the fatigue or soreness of exercise,
Hmm.
but then usually if I feel my performance sucks, usually it's because I just didn't sleep well or I didn't um, value my sleep. It's just like, oh, I thought that, oh, maybe I'll just work 2 more hours, but then I didn't rest. So usually it's like an issue of rest.
Oh, that's such a good point. Like I definitely am hearing those both those points really loudly right now because like I had kind of a crappy workout this week and I was also, in the office and this entire week, so that also means that I, had an hour of travel time in addition to my work where I usually don't have that. So it's like, yeah, I kind of like looking holistically at like what you did, not just your lifting or your climbing, but like outside of that, are you resting well, making sure you're taking care of yourself. Um, yeah, uh, that's really helpful. Honestly, I've just been working through this week, so I'm like, it just happened yesterday, so I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, that's so true. Okay, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is like the other day I was teaching this course and I was like giving my student advice and I
Mhm.
have this wake up moment say, wait, these are good advice, but I'm not following my own advice myself in real life. And I was like, huh, this is not right. I should like live my own advice. And
Yeah.
it's like similar, just like, oh, okay. As in terms of workout or training, I want to do more.
Hmm.
But resting and restorative exercise is part of the workout if you think about it. So I can't just like work, work, work. I need rest. So I just like, okay, I need to adjust my mindset and adjust my schedule too.
Have you like found out like other than that, like are you like how many times a week are you usually like climbing hard normally?
Well, if I could, I wish I can climb hard every single day, but
Yeah.
I have to. It's tricky though. So because I also have my guiding schedule, so I
Yeah.
had to kind of like be flexible. S- and it's kind of nice, just like, okay, at least maybe one day a week, I try really hard. Um, and and trying very hard. One good thing about trying really hard is it doesn't have to be long, because
Hmm.
nobody can try very hard for a very long time. So so one day a week is pretty good, right? And then I will have maybe one day I just do easier stuff, but doing more of those things.
Hmm.
And then in the past I kind of like alternate them, but now I just like, wait, I also want to have a day that I'm just going climbing for fun,
Yes.
because that's good for my mental health.
Hmm.
So even though um, I might imagine that, oh, if I don't train, then my progress will stall. But I feel that one thing is very important for improving your performance, is your motivation. So
Yeah.
if you always train, you always go hard, it's actually you lose your motivation. So for me, it's just like, okay, today my goal is have fun. I really have fun. So I'm like, wow, climbing is so fun. And then and then another day I was more focused on solving problems, because climbing is just like there's an optimal way that to solve a problem on climbing.
Hmm.
And then I just like, okay, then it's more like a skill requisition. So my goal is a little bit different. And some day I just like, I'm just gonna pull really hard on this
Yeah.
very small holds.
Hmm.
So I feel like have like different goal will kind of make you uh like mentally
Yeah.
not fatigue. Yeah.
Hmm. Yes. No, I totally agree with that. And like also like making the objective different each time, kind of like if you're trying to do hard climbing every day, like yes, mentally that would be very difficult, but like you still there's still value in what different working in different strengths, if for lack of a better way of speaking to it. Um yeah, that's very true. Do you since you were climbing since you were like 32, do you find that you like compare yourself to when you were younger, or do you like you're just kind of like, oh, I've just exponentially gotten better as I got older?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I forgot, like, I just recently read that again, even though I knew it,
Hmm.
is comparing is like the best way to demoralize yourself.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and then especially like now, like I go to climbing gym, it would be like younger kid, they were just so coordinated. I was just like, wow,
Hmm.
they only been climbing for months, and I've been climbing for years.
Hmm.
Uh, it's very hard not to feel like a little bit frustrated, just like, wow, it took me so long to learn this, and then it took other people like months or even weeks to master the skill that it took you a very long time. But then, uh, but but then it actually I feel this comparison just like it's not very it's not very how should I say? It's like other than hurting my feelings, really no other benefit, because everybody comes from very different background. So everybody's progression is like different, especially when I teach climbing. So I've seen some people progress very fast and some people progress slowly, but I never judge them. It's like it's just like people are different.
Yeah.
And then so people are good at different things. So I just like, oh, I never feel like they should be frustrated. Why am I like frustrated about me not being able to perform at a particular certain time?
Hmm.
But it's hard though because you always want. I think people's nature is that I want to look good, I want to perform well. But after all, it's like I'm not really like a sponsor athlete or competitive climber. Like
Hmm.
winning is really not part of my job.
Yeah.
And so I just like, well, think what I really want.
Hmm.
Uh, because the other day I was climbing with my friend and she's really, really good. And then so I got frustrated because she can do the problem I was working hard like very easily and she just did it. So I got frustrated. But then she just like, then why do you even climb? Because I just like, wait, I climb for a lot of different reasons. So um, then if I just got frustrated that easily, then maybe I don't love climbing that much. So maybe I should give up climbing. But no, wait, I can't give up climbing because I love it so much. So I just like recheck my
Yeah.
own motivation. It's kind of helped me with that. Yeah.
Oh, yes, that's great. I know like I said, I've been working through this lately, but I had an injury with climbing and getting back into it. So I have to kind of get to that point where I can just focus on myself and not focus on other people and like them working through a problem easier. But I really related to when you said, yes, I love climbing. Why, if you would stop climbing, you'd never want to do that, obviously. So it kind of like, yeah, checks yourself. I really connected with that. And then, so yeah, moving forward, I always ask this question for all of our podcasts. Um, and that is, what words of empowerment would you give to other women, either in your position or not in your position, or just generally, to keep them going, keep them positive, in their active adventure?
Mm. Yeah, this might sound like cliche, but I really think what make you happy. Yeah. It just go back to the conversation we just had. My friend said, "Well, why do you climb?" Um, it was a simple question, but then I thought about that for quite a long time. It's just like, I've been climbing for so long, but I haven't asked this question for a very long time to myself.
Hmm.
And recently I just found out, because I want to, I'm like really happy when I climb. And I don't care about anything else. I'm just really happy when I climb. I'm really happy that I work hard and then I'm really happy I'm improving. I'm just happy about everything. And and that's like pretty important to me. Just like really think about why and then what make you happy.
Yeah. No, I like can really relate to that. This is the week for me to relate to that. Yes, I put a lot of pressure on myself to, um, I don't know. It's, for example, that I don't want to say how fast I was going because I don't want other people to judge themselves. But let's just say I did a workout and it was supposed to be a threshold, like manageably fast pace, and it was a lot slower than I normally would run that pace. And it was just a lot of like my ego having to deal with that. So it's good for me to think like, okay, I love running. I love doing it. Remember why I started doing it. And keep positive that way. So, yeah, this is super helpful and timely advice for myself, and I hope that it's good. I'm sure it's good for others as well. And then, did you have any plugs that you would like to do?
Any plugs? Definitely the podcast, Female Guys Requested podcast.
Yep.
Um, I'm not as good as like you. You're so like calm and asking good questions. I'm still working on asking good questions. Uh, but I'm not very good at promoting this. I hope that more people can listen to the podcast and give me some feedback because feedback is always very important. And then I'm also trying to do a little bit different type of guiding, and I like to mentor and coach people to have a long-term goal.
Mhm.
So if you have some like climbing long-term goal or you just want to learn about climbing, definitely contact me.
Mhm.
Uh, See that whether I can figure out something to help you and have. So that's probably like the biggest plugs that I want to put in.
Yeah, and do you train people online too, or just in Las Vegas?
I do, but so I have some past client contact me, so I'm like working with two different individual,
Mhm.
but it's not like I formally put it online.
Oh, okay.
Uh, does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How do they reach out to you for that training? Or,
So they email me and they told me about their personal goal. So
Mhm.
then we kind of have an initial meet well online, and
Mhm.
then so we figure out like some schedule. So it's more like a hybrid version. So which means that we do some online check-in, and then if the schedule allows, we still have to go outside because climbing is hard to talk about climbing, so
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have to climb. Yes.
Yes. Very true. Yeah, it's definitely a good point. Is there anything that you wanted to say that I didn't ask you or anything you wanted to touch on that we didn't talk about?
Uh, Let me think. I was just thinking, yeah, and I maybe I'll say that I don't know. I usually feel like I have high standard for myself, but other than take good care of yourself, though, you also have to slow down and recognize what you have accomplished. I feel a lot of time, people, very driven people, they will always just like, okay, now I check this,
Mhm.
and then they start looking at about the next goal. But I think it's very important that when you check that, it's just like, hmm, I'm actually doing really well, and it's worth celebrating. I'm such a good athlete. I'm doing really well, or something like that. Um, and I think that's a good, important self-compassion, self-care.
Mhm.
And I wish I could have done more of those,
Yeah.
um, because a positive reinforcement is usually really nice. And then you understand yourself better, so you can really give yourself a very um, good evaluation.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think like because you said you're kind of negative, like did you have like a lot of negative self-talk when you were younger? Um, I know I did, but like when you were telling yourself like when you're working towards something where you're not like positive in your head.
Definitely, yeah. Because like my mom had high standard.
Mhm.
She always pointing out something I could improve, but ignore what I perform really well. So I think that I pick up that type of culture. I mean, my mom's not the only one. It sounds like my mom was horrible, but the
Well,
culture, the
yeah.
Asian culture, just like there was it's just like, oh, you need to have straight A, and
Yeah.
B is not good enough, that type of thing. So we always just like, oh, if we don't get 100 point, something is wrong.
Hmm.
And it took me a long time to shake it off, and I still have those things. And and then I but now I just like, well, it didn't serve me really well back then. So right now I'm just trying. I'm a lot better right now to recognize my acknowledgement, to acknowledge my own accomplishment.
Hmm.
But I have to constantly remind myself. So it's kind of nice that, talking with you, I just like, well, what kind of advice I can give people? I just like, this thing I'm working on, I think is really important. So, people definitely, if you want, can give me a pat on my shoulder too.
Yes. Like how, I guess just because how did you like just recognizing it helped you to kind of stop that um stop yourself from doing that over and over again?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that because I have this hard relationship with my mom, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I do that, I just say, "Oh my God, you are just like mom."
Oh yeah, yep.
And then I will stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's kind of funny. I mean, I love my mom, but I just like, oh, I don't want to be like that.
Yes.
So I just like, how how can I be harsh to my mom if I'm just like my mom?
Hmm. Yes.
So so now that's why I learned to be gentle with my mom and now and be gentle with myself too. Hmm.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I love that. Yeah, it's so hard to, especially when you're so used you've like worn those grooves so deep from when you were younger to do that in your head, and then now like to undo that, it's really hard to notice it. I think the biggest thing for me when I started doing that was like, oh yeah, I feel so much better when I'm not like berating myself in, in my head or saying negative things about myself in my head.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you?
Yeah. And right now I have two cats.
Hmm.
Um, and cats sometimes they can be annoying
Hmm.
or but then no matter what they did, I just love them.
Yeah.
Uh, and then they also changed my attitude to my husband too. I was like, whoa, how come I can love my cats unconditionally?
Yeah.
Maybe I should be nicer to my husband.
Hmm.
Um, so I so I just found that, love, I know it's quite cliche, but it's like love is actually the best solution to a lot of things.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really good point. I could do that too. I could do that a little bit better. I have a lot of patience for my dog pees on the ground, but I don't always have patience for my partner. So, definitely a good lesson to take. And I love the yes, be gentle with yourself and be gentle with your mom. I feel like that should be a t-shirt. Um, I'll do my plugs really quickly and then we can close this out. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. You can follow me personally. That's at Jacalyn Gross, JacalynGross. You can follow Your Sportswear. That's the letter U, the letter R, Sportswear on all social platforms. You can check out any of our products at yoursportswear.com. If you are listening to this and you want to watch the video version, you can go to UR Sportswear's YouTube channel and subscribe. Both the audio and video version of this podcast was edited by me and produced by Jeremy Canaria. Ting Ting, thank you so much for being here. This has been such a great conversation. You totally like changed my perspective today. I was being very negative and talking with you. I've definitely feel like you've changed it around and I can give myself a little bit more grace here.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you for having me.